Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with David Essel. He's the author of 9 motivational, inspirational books. He's a speaker, master life coach, and counselor, and he's also a radio TV host. David, welcome back to the show. This is your second time here.
Oh, Andrew. Hey, the first time we got such great responses from your audience. I loved it. It was so much fun.
I had a blast, and I'm really excited to get you back on. But just like last time, let's dive in with a favorite success quote or some sort of saying that you've lived by that's helped you on your journey.
Absolutely. Moving in a direction which is opposite to what we're doing right now, where we are not successful, will guarantee success. And Andrew, it's a philosophy that we've been living with since 1996, 21 years now. Everyone says, like in the law of attraction, only do what feels good on the way to success, and they make this simplified stuff so crazy. It feeds into our instant gratification, that do what feels good. And that would be great. But when we're talking about massive success, most of us, and I won't include Andrew in this, but the rest of us, have to be willing to do what we would rather not do, go in the opposite direction to get what you want out of life.
So what I'm getting from this is when you say we only do what feels good, we're actually moving away from those challenges and those obstacles that could allow us to grow into a stronger man and reach more success. Is that what I'm getting?
Absolutely, Andrew. As a matter of fact, if you're doing good stuff and you're getting a good end result, well, don't change a damn thing. But what we want to do is we want to encourage people who don't have the money, the relationship, the body, the spiritual connection, those people that don't have that big goal, Andrew, we want them to understand if you don't have it right now, there's a darn good chance you've got to get really uncomfortable on a daily basis in order to bring that into your life.
I get it. We got to be uncomfortable because that's going to push us towards growth and where we want to go. And what we want in life is likely a challenge. It's going to be hard, whether it's a great relationship or improve our dating life or increase our income and grow our business. But where do we draw that line and find the balance of being able to live and enjoy our life on a daily basis, as well as striving for growth? Is there seasons? Is there seasons here? Or is this, I think that this is a question that isn't talked about.
No, you just nailed it, man. But this is what we say in our number 1 best-selling book on positive thinking. Devote 365 days walking on a path that is not comfortable. And if you don't see a major shift, then move in a different direction. But we guarantee in our book, and we have 150 stories proving it, Andrew, that if people were to commit 1 year out of your life, you're going to live to be 77, 87, 97, whatever it is. If you devote 12 months, we talk about seasons, going through all the seasons to get sober, to double your income, to find the love of your life, to get closer to your spiritual guru, whoever that is. If you devote a year, it's not that, it's going to go fast. Like Andrew, can you imagine how fast the last 12 months went for you and I?
Yeah, it's been fast. Yeah.
It's super fast. So what we say in the book is if you devote 5 to 6 days a week for 365 days in a row, you will see a radical change in your life. And if you don't, I would be shocked as heck. But let's go back to your question about balance.
Right. Are you miserable on these 365 days, or is there a way to make it so that we are actually living and enjoying our lives while on the pursuit of growth?
Okay, great question. And then I'm going to give you a question back is,
sure.
How big is it and how bad do you want it?
Yeah, I want it. Level 10, committed.
Okay, level 10. Then you should never, and I'm going to make this absolute statement, at the very most, 1 day off a week for the next year. That's it. One day. Like, and this is what separates the wheat from the chaff. This is what separates, like when I interview people like Keith Mitchell, former NFL All-Pro linebacker, and I asked him, how the hell did he get to be an All-Pro linebacker? And he says the same thing that Wayne Dyer told me when I interviewed the late Wayne Dyer for years, and Deepak Chopra. Like even though in their later years, Andrew, they talk about, balance and taking time off. But I want to tell you something. None of these dudes did it growing up. Until they reach that high level of success, there isn't a such thing as a day off. Honestly, but we're talking about a year, Andrew. I'm not saying that you've got to put 10, 20 years in it. At the end of a year of taking one day off a week and really committing yourself to the process of weight loss, doubling your income, finding deep love, you will be very close to what it is that you want.
Okay, that makes sense to me. We've got to put in the work up front in order to get to where we want to be. I completely agree. Now, Is there a way to enjoy this journey? Do we find that we hit flow perhaps when we're working hard and we're actually? I feel like because if we can like switch from it as being work and what I said as, hey, are we miserable? And viewing it like this is hard and view it as this opportunity, view it as this is just the way life. I had a guy on here, his name was Michael Matthews, big fitness guy. And he says, hey man, like, do the ants complain? Like, do the animals, do the birds complain that they have to wake up? It's like, they just wake up and do. And as humans, we think and we go, no, I don't want to. Like, and we sometimes got to get back into that mentality of like, hey, we got to do our part here in the world too.
Yeah, we do. Well, let's go to the question. Whatever you're doing, is it like overwhelming negative attitude work, overwhelming work? So if your purpose is to make money and you're trying to do it in an industry you don't like, I think you're screwed. I really do. I mean, I'm just flat out. I think you're screwed. I think if you get into, let's say, network marketing, you go in, you say, I want to make all this money that all these people in network marketing say they're making. And I've got a lot of friends in network marketing who make a lot of money. And I'll tell you what, man, they put 5, 6, 7 years of 7 days a week into doing it. But they all had one thing in common. They actually liked the product they were selling. They weren't just doing it for money. They enjoyed talking about the product. They enjoyed using it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you're aligned with something that you're excited about, Andrew, you still have to put the work and the hours in, but it won't feel like drudgery.
Yeah. So you still have to put the work in. I think that is also the other side where it's like, hey, I love what I'm doing, but I'm not successful. Well, you got to put in the work too. But if you enjoy it, then that seems like it could be a hack because it's not going to feel like work. You almost want to do it. You want to get to that next level. You want to learn. It's like almost like saying like if you want to learn a martial art, you might as well pick the one that you're going to enjoy the most because either way, you're going to get hurt in all of them. You're going to get hurt. You're going to tap out. You're going to get really hurt and you're going to go to the hospital a lot. But if you enjoy the martial art, you're likely to continue to show up. And you actually pay the guy to hurt you. Isn't that weird? I've always thought that, I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and I pay the guy to choke me out and he doesn't pay the medical bills. I do. I've always thought it was a funny thing.
Yeah. Well, but you said something really interesting. Okay. You're willing to go through the pain because what you're doing is enjoyable or satisfactory. The other thing, Andrew, is that once you get into the habit of getting up earlier in the morning or going to the gym when you don't want to, or making those extra prospecting calls when you don't feel like it. Once you get into the habit of doing it 6 days a week, even just for 3 or 4 months, it won't be the issue that it was in the beginning. Like I'll give you an example. As a counselor and a coach, I work with all kinds of people with deep emotional issues, and then I work with people in business. So I have a real estate agent I started working with about a year ago. He hated prospecting. He was one of the, if you hate prospecting in real estate, you're kind of screwed, right?
Yeah, that is kind of the job.
That's 98% of it, And so he kept saying, I love to work with clients, but I don't want to go out and have to get them. So we put him on this schedule where he had to make 20 prospecting calls a day. Now, that's a lot, and that could be 10 in person and 10 on the phone or 20 on, I didn't care. So within 6 weeks, he had 6 new listings.
Okay.
When we started, he had 0 listings.
Yeah.
And he did what he didn't want to do. And then 6 weeks later, he's been, now that's fast, Andrew. I'm not going to say everyone is going to reach that level of success so quickly. But all of a sudden now he can't wait to get on the phone because he knows at some point business is coming. But he hated it in the beginning. I will be honest about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just real quick, I got to ask you here. I love your energy, David. It's great. It's fantastic. What do you do? What are you, a few years older than me? I'm 29. I'm kidding. You're older than me. I don't know if we have to go into the exact age, but you're older than me and you've got great energy. Just real quick, I'm curious. Like, what do you do to have such great energy in your space? And
well, I think it's important not to ever be embarrassed or ashamed of your age. I'm 60. So
you look like you're like late 40s, man. Like you look great. If you guys could see what he looks like, you'd be amazed.
Thank you.
So what's the secret here? What's going on?
Well, there's never going to be one answer. You know that, Andrew. But it's 6 days a week in the gym. I take it very seriously. Okay. The workouts in the gym. Every morning, the first hour is devoted to gratitude, prayer, meditation. I really think that fuels your day and that starts you off. I eat really clean. I don't drink at all. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. But I will say this is that, in the past, I was a heavy alcoholic and cocaine addict. So to shatter those addictions, and I was doing the same work I'm doing right now. I mean, I've done this work for 38 years now. So, in those 38 years, I struggled immensely, but then I got really clean. And in that cleaning up my act, it's amazing how you start to feel better, look better, and so it's a combination of things. There isn't, you can eat as clean as you want, but if you don't exercise, you're not going to have the energy you hope, right? You could work out 7 days a week, and if you don't eat clean, your body's not going to change.
Right.
And I believe from the mind perspective, Andrew, that putting that hour a day, into your gratitude, prayer, meditation, I really think that that's a crucial part of feeling younger and looking younger too.
Wow. And so just recap, you're working out 6 times a week. And do you just go to the gym, or do you like to go and run or go on hikes? Is it just a combination of just being active, or is there a specific regimen that you're following?
Well, in the gym, I do this outrageous program that my mentor, Joe Cerulli, taught me 30-something years ago, but I didn't start doing it until 2000, and it's called super slow training. And Andrew, you work out in the gym, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you go on to let's say a bench press, and you do 10 seconds out and you hold, and you do 10 seconds back in and you hold. Okay, now that's a 20-second repetition. It'll blow your mind how intense it is, right? But I just came back from the gym. I just raced in. I had a session. I raced in. I didn't have time for a full workout because I needed to be with you, which I'm loving. But I did my shoulders today, and I did abs. And I do abs a 20-second repetition. 10 seconds up, stop. 10 seconds back down.
So you're slowing down your reps, and that. Yeah. Okay. It's really exercising your muscles a lot more.
Oh, it's so intense. And and for everyone that doesn't have time for exercise or wishes you had more time, I swear I have 15 minutes in the gym, 6 days a week, or 20 minutes max for weight.
Okay.
And I am totally exhausted. And then I do 30 minutes cardio, and then I play tennis a couple days a week. But, that's it. I'm not a slave to the gym.
Yeah.
It's like you got to find what works. And with my schedule, I don't have much more time than that.
Got it.
So, but it works incredibly, man.
That's great. That's great. So 6 times a week, you're working out. You're really active doing things. You got to, how committed are you to that 1 hour morning routine? I mean, because I have a morning routine, but it fluctuates. Sometimes it's 15 minutes. Sometimes it's an hour, really just given, the nature of my day. But are you committed to an hour for yourself every day?
7 days a week. I haven't missed in probably 25 years, almost as long as you've been alive, my dude.
Hey, I'm coming on my 30th coming up here. I'm getting old, man. So you're working out, but what I find interesting about this, because I wanted to ask, have you just always been like this? Did you come out of high school, college, some athlete? You were addicted to smoking and cocaine, and so you've had your struggles and challenges. Yet you've got incredible health. You look great in vitality now. So I just want to pinpoint that out. Yeah, it's great. What I really wanted to dive into in this interview, let me just, this is the Knowledge for Men show. You talk on a lot of different media channels about success and personal development. This is Knowledge for Men. And so where are men today? What are your you've coached hundreds, can I say thousands? You've worked
Easily.
with thousands of men in varying levels in business and personal growth through addiction. Let's talk about men specifically. Like, just where do you feel like men are at today?
Well, it's kind of interesting. The sexes are really having some major shifts in the last 25 years, and it's becoming more and more apparent. Women have broken through the glass ceilings that so many times people said they'd never be able to break through. Geez, we almost had a female president, for God's sake. That sort of tells us how far women have come. But with that, there's a lot of pressure for a woman to be everything to everyone, to be a great business person, a great lover, a great mom, to be knowledgeable and educated. And 30, 40, 50 years ago, Andrew, there wasn't that much pressure, for a woman to be everything. But with guys, the same pressure is happening, but in the opposite direction. Guys have always been the breadwinner and the answer person and all this kind of stuff, but it ain't working in regards to relationships, and it's not working in regards to men's self-esteem. Men have to move in the other direction. And it's just like the purpose of your show is to help men, but the guys watching have to be willing to take the advice you're giving and to apply it, not think that they know everything. As guys, myself included, we have a tendency to believe that once we find the truth, we know it all. And we're raised in a society where we're supposed to have the answers, but we have to move actually in the other direction, where we're vulnerable, where we're open, where we might feel insecure. And that's the balance that men are facing right now, more so, Andrew, than any other time in history. Guys have to catch up with the fact that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to cry in front of your girlfriends or guy friends, whatever you might be. It's okay. And not only is it okay, all these things that you and I are talking about actually boost self-esteem and confidence. At first, do you feel like this wimp? I've got to pull over and ask for directions, for God's sake. I'm not supposed to do that. And I don't know about you, Andrew. Do you readily pull over and ask for directions, or do you drive around?
I drive around.
Yeah, see, I still do too, until I have someone sitting next to me and she elbows me in the head. Yeah. She elbows me in the shoulder. I don't pay attention. The gut. I look
at my phone. I look at my phone and I solve the problem. I figure it out. I make it happen.
Okay, you make it happen. And you know what I've found with my experience is that when I pull over and I'm swearing at the phone and I'm going, "Damn it, Siri, what the hell are you doing?" Or whoever it is.
Cliff.
That's right. And I look at all the time I wasted doing that when I could have just pulled over to a 7-Eleven or somewhere and said, "Hey, where the hell how do you get to this place?"
Right.
It saves a lot of time, and it also opens us up to this whole thing that I'm such a huge fan of, is boosting self-esteem and confidence in ways that we may not think at first really work, Andrew.
Yeah. So when you're talking about being vulnerable and open and it's okay to cry, is there a way to do this where you don't come across as weak, or do you just do it and the act of doing it is not weak at all?
So if someone is, who's watching right now has never been into the gym and they know they need to go, or they've gone in and they've had negative experiences, do we say prepare to go in the gym, or do we say, would you just get your butt in the gym?
Yeah.
We say, just go to the gym, quit thinking about it, quit worrying about it, quit, oh, everyone's going to look at me and I'm overweight and, everyone's going to judge me because all these guys are bodybuilders and I'm not. Well, hell, most of the big bodybuilders I know are just such great guys. They don't care. They don't look at you and judge you. They're more worried about their body in the mirror than your body walking by. Yeah. So we say, don't overthink it, just act. So when it comes to okay, and let me give you a great example in relationships. With all the women I counsel, the number one thing they always say is, I wish my man would shut up and listen and not give me advice and not tell me what his thoughts are, because I don't need his advice or thoughts. I need to vent. Now, a guy, because we're trained so differently, sits there and the minute she's done, he goes, well, why don't you just quit talking to Marianne? Why don't you just get rid of her if she gossips all the time or she's talking trash about your best friend? That might be great advice, but she doesn't want your advice. She just wants you to sit and listen. That's hard for guys to do, Andrew.
Yeah. So we're thinking okay, well then why is she sharing? Because she probably, she probably wants a solution or some sort of answer. And we think, okay, that's where we come in. This is where I provide value.
Right, exactly. And it's not the case at all. If you ask a woman who's frustrated with you in a relationship, what's the number one thing you could do? It would be to shut up and listen. I'm not kidding you. I hear it all the time. It's like, David, I don't know why he tries to fix me. It's like it makes women feel like they're stupid. They're not appreciated. They're not being listened to. They don't want to be fixed. Now, this is what I tell all my guy clients. If your girlfriend or wife comes to you and she says, hey, what do you think I should do about this? And she gives a scenario. The very first thing you say is, do you want me to just to listen, or do you really want my opinion? And so she'll come back and go, no, I really want to hear what you think. But that's not true most of the time. So then I say to the guys, say the same thing again. Okay, I can give you my thoughts. Do you want to keep talking, or do you really want my opinion? Now, if after 2 times, Andrew, she says, I want your opinion, then give it to her. But for the most part, she's used to asking out of courtesy, what do you think about this? And that's a trick in a way. It's like kind of a trick statement. It's like, I'm going to ask you to be respectful, but I really don't want it. And this is God's, and men get all twisted up, right? Men get all twisted up. I'm going, well, Jesus, she asks for my opinion all the time. Well, she's doing it out of courtesy. She wants to talk her way through it and come to her own solutions. And you're there just as a pillow that she's talking to.
So maybe instead of providing solutions, you're providing questions to allow her to continue to explore whatever she's sharing about. And that is what she wants, is someone who can listen and let her maybe come to the conclusion.
Yeah. Andrew, you just nailed it. I mean, as a counselor, that's what we do in our sessions. We say, well, what do you think your best options are? And if that doesn't work, what do you think would be the next best thing to do? If your girlfriend was in this circumstance, what do you think she would do? As counselors, we're constantly digging deeper and asking questions. I'm not saying the guys have to go out and get certified as counselors, but I think that you can take some of these tips, just like what you said a second ago, you nailed it head on, is to ask more questions, because she will eventually continue to talk and vent, and she'll probably come up with her own answer very quickly.
Yeah. So I think that's going to save a lot of frustration and arguments tonight for guys. just trying that out and just asking her questions, and maybe more of a probing approach rather than a solution oriented approach. And then asking, hey, do you want my opinion, or should you just want me to listen?
Yeah. Do you just want me to listen? And the other thing I'll say to guys is that, don't mess with a girl's family. Don't give advice ever about her mom, her dad, her brother, her sister. That's like you're walking into a trap. You really are, because they're going to always feel pulled. Even if they don't like their mom or their dad or their brother or their sister, they're going to go on a subconscious level to defensiveness in a heartbeat. If you go, well, your mom is just an idiot. And then all of a sudden, what do you say that for? And then you go, but I'm just repeating what you told me. And it's okay for her to say it, but don't you dare go down that path with her.
Yeah, some good insights. So coming back to this whole man's emotions and like locking away his emotions, like what do you think happens to a man when he does not do some of the things that we're talking about, which is being open and vulnerable and shares what's really going on inside of his world? What happens to a man who locks those inside?
Andrew, it's the seat of all addictions. Unexplored, unresolved emotions, anger, resentment, boredom, shame, guilt, frustration, anxiety, all of these emotions that are not dealt with. It's the seat of addictions. As a holistic addiction recovery counselor, what I say to everyone, regardless of what you read in the paper and on magazines, the cause of addictions has nothing to do with your genetics. And I'm going to say that again. The cause of addiction has nothing to do with genetics. The number one cause of addiction is submerged emotions. So when someone doesn't deal with their anger or their rage or their resentments or their shame or their guilt or their boredom, they're going to go to workaholism, alcoholism, like I did. They'll go to drug addiction, nicotine, television addiction, spending addiction, gambling addiction. So as we as men move away from the center of dealing with these emotions, like why is 70% of the population overweight or obese? Well, I can tell you what the answer is. It's because 70% of the population has never really learned to deal with these emotions you and I are talking about. 33% of the population are alcoholics. Again, they haven't learned how to deal with peer pressure is another emotion, and so and 21% of the population is addicted to nicotine. Again, nicotine, whether it's in a vape or cigarettes or anything else, is the most powerful anti-anxiety medication over the counter sold today. That stuff works.
Yeah.
That's why it's so hard to break a nicotine addiction, right? So with men, we've been taught to hold it in and to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and all that crap. And then all of a sudden we're workaholics. We're not coming home because we don't want to deal with the crap at home. Instead of dealing with the crap at home, we put our head in the sand, and then we come up with these justifications and rationalizations, like, well, this is what men do. Well, real men don't avoid their families or their partners. If you want to be a real man in 2017, you sit down and go, hey, we might need help here. I don't know where the hell to go with this. We've been fighting about the same arguments for the past 6 months or 6 years or 20 years. Obviously, we haven't figured it out yet, honey. We need to go get help. And then if your partner says they're not interested, you need to go on your own. But, and I tell a great story. Well, actually, Andrew, in our book, my mentor tells an amazing story. Now, this guy, Joe Cerulli, I have so much respect for him. He was homeless and he became a multi-crillionaire. He went from homelessness to becoming a multi-crillionaire, his own private jet, homes all over the place, in an industry that people say you can't make money. And that's the health club industry. And he did it in a tiny city in the middle of Florida with a population of 150,000 people. So this is a guy that shatters rules all the time. So when I asked him to write for our book, Positive Thinking Will Never Change Your Life, but this book will, he at first was a little shocked. He said, geez, David, you're one of the most positive people I know. Why are you writing a book on that positive thinking doesn't work? And I said, Joe, when you were starting out in your career and you were really stressed, did you overcome your stress with positive thinking? And he started laughing. He goes, hell no. Yeah. So I said, write something for the book. And the story he wrote is, now this is a guy who's been on the cover of Inc. magazine. His business, Andrew, was just ranked in Forbes magazine as one of the top 25 small businesses in the United States of America. And it's the only it's the only company in the whole state of Florida that Forbes selected. That tells you the type of person this is.
Yeah.
But when he was starting his business, building his first health club, in this old beat up warehouse, and every week he had to pay contractors, plumbers, electricians, and every Thursday he'd be sweating bullets trying to figure out, how am I going to make the money for tomorrow? Now, this is 50 years ago. And let's say that his weekly income he had to bring in was $1,700 to pay these people. This is what he did as a man 50 years ago. He would sit for 2 to 3 hours, Andrew, and he would feel and write about his insecurities, his anxiety about money, his depression about money. For 2 to 3 hours, he would sit. And then he writes in the book, he says, the most amazing thing that would come out of it, David, is at the end of 2 or 3 hours, I would feel refreshed, actually, which is really weird. But that's what happens when you process emotions. He said, but the next coolest thing would happen. A half an hour or 45 minutes later, all of a sudden, the answer I needed would pop into my mind. He didn't run away from being stressed and depressed and anxious. He went into it, Andrew, and by going into it, which very few men do, we'd rather drink or smoke or eat or work, right. But all of a sudden, he would come up with these phenomenal answers, solutions to his problems.
So he went into it rather than masking it with some sort of addiction. And some of the addictions you brought up, and I think most of the addictions likely are low cost, which allows you to continuously keep doing it. Like cigarettes are, I know they're increasing in price, but relatively low cost. Same with alcohol, relatively low cost. And so even porn, it's free. What other gambling? It's you walk in, they take care of you, they give you, a lot of the addictions are cheap, which allows you to continuously abuse them, and it allows you to continuously mask your problems. Yeah. And so to recap, one of the key points I got from your story here, the cause of addiction has nothing to do with genetics. More so, the number one cause of addiction is submerged addiction. So by submerged, you mean hiding.
Yeah, submerged emotions.
Submerged emotions. Okay, so hiding the emotions, locking them away, not dealing with them. I think what can happen here too, which we see, is may break out like a volcano where it's like rumbling, and then finally something triggers it, and then the man goes in and explodes and yells, or maybe even does something that he would never ever think he could do, but abuse those around him, whether verbally or physically. I just got done watching the new O.J. Simpson show, or did you see that American Crime Story? Oh, it's extremely addicting, but it's just this new show, Cuba Gooding Jr., and then it's about the O.J. Simpson case. I think there was probably a lot of that going on with him as well, where he was not sharing, and then finally he had his rage, and he did something that I don't want to go into the politics of it all, but I think many men have, if you don't let it out on your own, it'll probably come out at some point in the future, and you may not like what happens.
Absolutely. Andrew, do you know, like, I don't know about your family, but, you know, again, I'm quite a bit, I'm probably older than your dad, for God's sake.
You're not.
But, you know, in my father, you know, when I grew up, like, there was no discussion of emotions. Like, when I played basketball in college for a couple years even. And when we would have a defeat and I'd be down and everything else, you know, my parents, who are, believe it or not, still alive, they're 90 and 89. They're doing awesome, which is really cool.
That's great.
But they didn't teach me how to feel sadness or resentment or anger or rage. As a matter of fact, because they were raised in an era where you just always you figured out how to have a happy face. You'll do better next game. You guys will win the next one. Don't worry about this one. Now, what that does is that propels us to continue to squash down what we're really feeling in the moment. And that's what we're trying to do with guys. You know, every guy that I work with, oh my Lord, within 3 to 4 months, Andrew, they're totally different people. I've got them writing and journaling on a daily basis about their fears, their insecurities, their money worries. You know, we're not like saying, put your head in the sand and watch another basketball game, even though I'm a huge nut with basketball. It's like, we've got to get to the reality and write about and feel and talk about our insecurities, our failures. And like, you know, that thing where some people in the world of personal growth say, don't should on yourself. You know, I don't know if you've ever heard that expression, but you shouldn't say like, I should do something different, or I shouldn't have done that in the past. And we're saying to guys, face the mirror, man. Talk about what you do that sucks in life, how you don't listen to your partner, how you put them down, how you don't respect your kids. And, you know, like get real with these emotions so they don't grow into mountains.
There's a quote that I had recently read. It's by Socrates: "The unexamined life is not worth living."
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, and when we talk about quotes in our book, we use several from C.J. Jung, the phenomenal philosopher, and he says that, you know, awakening and enlightenment will never come by standing in the light. It will only come by facing your darkness and walking into it. And, you know, when we think about, like, even though I love prayer and meditation and journaling and all this stuff, if you're not willing to face those things in life that you suck at, like expressing emotion in a way that people can hear you, as you said, not waiting until you blow up. Yeah. But, you know, if you don't explore that and figure out a way to start talking about things right now, you're just going to repeat the past, which is what men have done. And again, I want to go back to this huge thing. 70% of Americans are overweight or obese. A huge percentage of them are men. And men are hiding behind the sugar and the salt and the fat and the white flour, because here's something, Andrew, that is just so powerful that most people don't know. Within a few minutes of consuming a cookie or a donut or a piece of cake, your emotions are numbed just as if you had had 2 quick shots of bourbon. Okay, sugar is that powerful. So, and with nicotine, 1 or 2 hits off of a cigarette or a vape, and you are in bliss. You are not feeling the anxiety you were feeling before you lit up. And alcohol, drugs, spending, the whole 9 yards. You know, so what I'm trying to do is say to guys, hey, we can live a different life, a more effective life. We can get out of the world of addiction into the world of feeling good and improve our relationships at the same time.
Yeah. I think when we don't do this too, if you don't share how you feel, I mean, I think you get walked over in your relationships, or even in your professional and your career, if you aren't able to get real with your emotions and express and share and set boundaries. I think that this is equally a part of being a strong, grounded man, which is what we're aiming for here. That's what this whole show is about. And so I think this is a very, you know, powerful conversation. And so what I want to ask you, David, is how today as an exercise for the listeners, what is an exercise that they could do to start getting in touch with some of these emotions? What are some questions they could be asking themselves, or what would you suggest?
Oh, I love it. There's an exercise I give all my clients, Andrew, that I'll share with your listeners right now that'll really help. At the end of every day, write down the 4 things that went well and the 4 things that challenged you. Okay. So you come home. Now, the gratitude part is the 4 things that went well, and maybe there's only 2 things that went well, and maybe there's only 1 thing that went bad. But anyway, you get the idea. So the first part of it is what went well today. I got to the gym. So when you write something like that down, it boosts self-esteem and confidence. You got to love it, right? But if you don't write it down, you can't take advantage of the things that you're doing well. Maybe the second thing you write is that my partner called me when I was at work, and he or she complained for 15 minutes, and I just at the end of it said, "Is there anything I can do for you?" And they said, "No, thanks for listening." And you go and you write that down. I listened to my partner complain for 15 minutes and I didn't give advice. And then what are you challenged by? Well, maybe instead of calling my partner out and saying, "Hey, it really hurt my feelings today when you said this, I didn't do that." So you write it down, and you'll notice that the 4 things that went well, Andrew, or the 4 things that didn't go well, there's emotion based behind all of them. And that's what we're trying to get guys to do, is get in touch with the things you're doing well, congratulate yourself. And the things that you're not doing well, let's make a shift to do it better next time. That is the most powerful exercise to get men started on connecting with how they're feeling.
Very powerful. So for all the guys listening, please do that today, ASAP.
That's right.
Get that done. Let's make it happen so that you can start feeling what David's talking about here. So David, let's dive into the knowledge round. We did this before, so I'll change up some of the questions here for you. But are you ready for the knowledge round?
Always ready, Andrew.
All right. I love the energy. And David, my first question for you is, what advice would you give to someone who is really challenged with being open and vulnerable and really thinking that this is something where I feel weak and I don't like putting myself in that weak, vulnerable state?
Number 1, get help. And I'm not saying that, from the point of view that you can't figure it out on your own, but why try to figure out something on your own that you haven't been able to for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years? It'd be like someone saying, "I want to become a black belt in karate, and I'm going to watch a DVD on how to do it." Well, you probably have a good 80 years ahead of you to become a black belt. But if you go and hire an instructor, well, the odds are you're going to get there a lot quicker. And the same thing with learning emotions. Work with a counselor, work with a coach, a minister, a priest, whoever it is that you're connected with. But reach out and ask for help, because if you haven't done a good job of it up till now, you're not going to get it through a book, a DVD, or a CD.
Great. What do you think is holding most men back from becoming stronger, grounded men today?
Oh, the fear of being judged. That's it right there. We are so afraid that we're not going to measure up to what our partner's expectations are, our buddies' expectations are, our employer's expectation. We're so afraid. So we stay in these little comfortable boxes, Andrew. We stay and we do what we've always done because we are so afraid of being judged. And when we look at addiction, I have guys that I help get sober all the time from all over the world. And their number 1 concern is, what am I going to tell my friends? That's their big, we all go out on Saturdays and Friday nights. What am I going to do if I'm sober? So the fear of being judged holds most people back from actually changing.
Great. And now I want to know, first I want to give credit to your book, Positive Thinking Will Never Change Your Life, but This Book Will, by David Essel. Check it out on Amazon. But for yourself, David, what have been 3 of your most influential books that have helped you become a stronger man?
Well, without a doubt, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That's one that to me is one of the most powerful books ever written. And the cool thing about it, Andrew, is that even though the title says Think and Grow Rich, the book itself says that every example in there are guys that have worked their tails off to become wealthy. So I love that book. That would be number 1. Let me try to think of a couple other books that are really meaningful to me. Wow, this is a stumper, and I read all the time. And I'm trying to think, well, let me go to some authors that I really love. I think that'll help it. I believe the early books with Wayne Dyer, like Your Erroneous Zones, one of the best books I ever read. It makes you look in the mirror. It's a powerful read. I think that's really a great place for people to go. And wow, I can't think of any other right off my hand. You got me stumped there a little bit.
Okay, so the Wayne Dyer, anything you're reading this year that's really catching you?
I brought back out that book, Crush It. I don't know if you remember
Gary
the book.
Vaynerchuk? Gary
Yeah,
Vaynerchuk? Yeah,
Gary's book. I reread that last weekend just for the heck of it, because even though it's dated, it's
still, it's still completely. He's talking about just how the time is amazing right now, and this is your time to go out and crush it. No excuses, stuff like that. I think it's a powerful book. I remember reading that book when I was in college, and I just remember feeling like I gotta do something.
Yeah. And it's cool because he came from, they were immigrants to the United States, for God's sake,
right.
And it's one of those stories that you can really relate to, is that here's someone that had a passion, a drive to be successful. Oh, and the other thing that, I want to mention about his book is that he paid so much attention to the details. Andrew, the details of marketing, the details of customer service. Like, that's what exploded his business, was detail and customer service. So, I just read that this last weekend again, and I loved it. It's awesome.
Fantastic. And so now this next question here for you is a scenario. And so let's focus on some of the topics we've discussed in this episode about being a stronger man and opening up. But if you could envision your 25-year-old self, 25-year-old David, and where he was at in his relationships, personally, professionally, and knowing what you now know today about being a stronger man who has high emotional intelligence, what would you tell him to do, and what would you tell him not to do?
Well, the number one thing I would say is get help and get sober. Number one. Here's the interesting thing about, alcoholism with men is rampant. It's over the top, because a lot of times we equate drinking with making sales, and we drinking with networking, and all, and a successful guy relaxes with, a very expensive wine or bourbon.
Like Mad Men, the show Mad Men, they're constantly drinking, doing business deals.
Yeah, exactly. So I would tell my 25-year-old, self to go get help, go into a treatment center, hire counselors, borrow money, whatever you have to do to get clean and sober. After myself getting sober, what I found something really interesting, Andrew, is that almost all the people that I hang around with, who are all very, very successful, multimillionaires, living great lives, Andrew, they're all sober.
Really?
It's amazing to me. It is mind-blowing. I mean, my 6 closest friends that are all outrageously successful, not one of them drinks. And it's not just the law of attraction, like I attracted, non-drinking millionaires into my life, but it's the fact that that is the norm. Like most, now that doesn't mean that there can't be multimillionaires that are alcoholics and functioning very well, but the ones that are really rocking and have good relationships and they're healthy and everything else, Andrew, they're completely sober. It's not even like they nurse a glass of wine. They don't drink at all.
I think that's really interesting too. Did they used to drink? Like they used to, drink socially and stuff, and then now they've just realized, hey, not going to be a part of my life anymore, or are they always sober?
No, you know what's interesting about that? Remember when you just asked me what would I tell my 25-year-old self?
Yeah.
Is that they all stopped after college.
Oh, after college. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so they were party animals in college. And then when they got into the work world and they realized they wanted to make a lot of money and make a big difference in this world, like they said, all of them eventually, within a couple years of getting out of college, they just all quit. And when I asked them what are their mentors like, only one of the 6 that I hang out with had a mentor who drank on a regular basis. The rest of them, they said all of their great teachers have always been sober. And now, when you look at magazines and TV shows and movies, who was it? Robert De Niro, that on a fabulous interview, they said, do you know in every movie you've ever been in, you drink a lot? And he said, yeah. He said, isn't that funny? He said, I've never had a drop of alcohol in my life.
Wow.
Is that something?
Yeah, it is something.
Like you would think, I know so many Robert De Niro movies where it looks like he's hammered all the time. And he said, it's never even crossed my lips. He said, it's all fake in the movies. But he said, no, I've never had a drink. Wild. When
you were drinking, when you were, consuming alcohol and some drugs, did you think you had a problem at that time? Or did you think it was completely like, no, that's not me. I'm not one of those guys, but
Andrew, one of the things that money has the opportunity to do is that it keeps you in denial longer. Money keeps you in denial because you can afford. Now I never got a DUI, but I had some friends that when I was drinking heavily that were successful and they drank heavily and they got DUIs, they just paid their way out of them. So for me, it was just never an issue. Denial is so powerful that I said, I deserve this. Hell, I work 12-hour days, 5-6 days a week. I deserve to relax at night. I deserve weekends away where I just party my face off. I deserve, 3-4 week vacations where it's just filled with drinking. That was my mindset back then. And I would attract a lot of other guys around me that felt the same way. So I felt it was normal, but that's all called denial.
Wow. I think when you're celebrating, it can feel normal because, hey, there was this period I was working really hard and I was sober, and now I want to go and get really, I want to have a couple drinks, which leads to more drinks. And then it just becomes this habit where every week or 2 weeks or month, you're getting intoxicated.
Yes. Yeah. Now, let me go back to something I said about, the cause of addictions. The cause of all addictions has nothing to do with genetics. It's our inability to deal with emotions, peer pressure, anger, rage, resentments, boredom, etc., shame and guilt. But if you have the gene for alcoholism, that's where genetics comes into play. It doesn't cause us to start drinking. Peer pressure started me drinking at 13. I wanted to fit in with the older guys on the beach. So, I would drink with them because that's how you got to hang out with these guys. So peer pressure to me was the emotion I didn't know how to deal with. But if you have the gene, which I do in my family, I've had people die in my family of alcoholism. So if you have the gene, then that means that once you have 2 drinks, you're off to the races.
Right.
And that's what happened to me, so you have to be very careful. Now, there are some guys that I know that, once every 3, 4, 5, 6 months, they'll get together and have a drink, but they stop at one, Andrew, which when I was drinking, I used to say, now that's a waste of time.
Right. That's a waste of a drink. If you're going to drink one, right, you might as well drink 10.
That's right. So I used to just say, I'm not going out with those guys because they're going to have one and go home. What the heck is that? I wanted to go out and really lay it on. And I did until I woke up. And how I got out of my addictions was an interview with the founder of Transcendental Meditation.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi.
Well, I've heard of TM and I'm familiar with that. Yeah. He's not around, is what I...
No, he died a number of years ago.
Okay.
But in 1996, I interviewed him on my radio show, and I had him for 1 hour.
Okay.
And at the end of the hour, Andrew, he basically called me out. And after a long conversation, he was saying, he goes, I can tell you don't have joy. And I'm sitting there thinking, what the hell is that all about? And then later on, I admitted he was right. You can't be addicted to anything and be filled with joy.
Wow. That's anything. So it can be, insert addiction there and you're not going to be filled with joy because that thing is clogging it almost.
Amen to that.
It's like a plug on a sink. It's not allowing the joy to come in, or you're not allowing it to come in.
You are not. Food addiction, television addiction, spending addiction, nicotine, alcohol, drugs. You just throw anything in there. The addiction of being right. If you feel you always have to be right, that's an addiction. Joy plus addiction equals a lack of joy. And that's a tough thing for most of us to understand. It took me a long time to learn it, but it is so factual.
Wait, say that again. Did that come out right? Joy plus addiction equals
a lack of joy.
A lack of joy. Okay.
Yeah. So if you think you're joyful and you have an addiction, the reality is
that
you're lacking joy.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a brain tease for you.
Yeah. But man, so we got to handle our addictions. And one way to handle that is by getting in touch with our emotions as men, becoming stronger grounded men, and really opening up, examining our life and being okay with sharing.
Yeah, when you learn how to cope with anger, rage, resentment, boredom, shame, guilt, impatience, arrogance, when you learn to cope with those emotions, addictions fall away. The only reason we have addictions is so we don't have to feel all that stuff, Andrew. So the way to become clean of anything is to learn, okay, what am I feeling? I want this donut. I want this extra piece of cake. I want this extra drink. I want this vape. I want this something. Okay, right then, when you have that craving, that urge, the question should be, what am I running from? What don't I want to feel? There's something there that we're trying to cover up with a substance, a thought, or a behavior to get us out of that emotion.
That's a powerful question. And I think many guys should ask themselves. That's great. And next question here is, you've interviewed, you've worked, you have a powerful social circle. You're naming some of these legends in the industry that you've exchanged conversations with. What would you say is your philosophy on life and success?
you can't have everything you want, but you can probably come really close to it if you're willing to walk into the uncomfortable and ask for help. That's with your body, relationships, money. Like everyone says, go to this weekend workshop so you can learn how to become a millionaire. Andrew, I don't care how many weekend workshops you take. Not everyone's going to be a millionaire. It's easier to become a millionaire over 30 years than it is to become a millionaire in a year. Now, that's just common sense, right? Compound interest, investing correctly, over 30 years, anyone can become a millionaire, just about. But to earn $1 million a year is a totally different ballgame. Yeah. And if you read a book or you take a course that says anyone can earn $1 million a year, throw it out and run away. Because in order to earn $1 million a year, you have to have some outrageous talent, incredible persistence. Not everyone can do that. And I think in my work, Andrew, with the book, Positive Thinking Will Never Change Your Life, we're back into teaching reality. My whole work now is about getting out of this fanciful, the myth of positive thinking, the myth of the easy path. And a lot of people don't like it because I'm rattling cages and I'm telling the truth. Yeah. I've lived it. I've lived so much of life and I'm very blessed with my life. But I've also found that most great things that I've accomplished, including sobriety, I've had to work my ass off for. I've had to go and get help and get humble and spend a lot of money. And those are things that we have a tendency to want to move away from. We think that there should be an easier way, but there really isn't.
If there's one thing that if my audience did it, the thousands of guys listening right now actually went and did, and it would just make your day, you would feel like you had a successful day, what would that one thing be?
You know what? It's so easy. It's go and ask someone for help in the area you're struggling in the most. Is it your weight? Is it money? Is it love? Is it your career? Just if every guy listening right now would take out a piece of paper and write down just the one area, Andrew, that they're struggling in the most. You write that. Don't get confused with 2 or 3 or 4 different areas. Just the one that you're struggling with. Write it down and then go find a professional to help you. If every one of your thousands of listeners would do that, their life would start to shift today.
Wow. Thank you so much, David. And now what is exciting you for the rest of the year here? What's getting you out of bed in the morning? What's really moving you?
I tell you what, Andrew, I'm so glad you asked that question. We started this brand new program that I get up every day so fired up with. It's called David Essel's Daily Video Boost. And every day we put out a new video to our online video community. So it's really exclusive and they can get more information at talkdavid.com. But every day we give 1 4-minute boost. It's like this. Hey, this is what I want you to think about today. This is what I want you to write about today. This is the first time we've done something that's daily, and it's a huge amount of effort and I love it. Like I get excited because we're getting responses back from people going, oh my God, I needed to hear that today. So that's what's jazzing me up right now.
That's great. And also check out David Essel's book, Positive Thinking Will Never Change Your Life. But this book will. Go to Amazon, type in David Essel, Essel. You can also go to Google, type in David Essel. It'll take you straight to his website. And he's been on a number of other media channels that you can check out. And David, thank you so much for sharing your story and your lessons here with my community. You've made an impact on thousands of men today.
Oh, Andrew, I love your energy too. And anytime I can help, brother, I'm back and ready for you.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and millions of downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement and we're just getting started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a helpful review in iTunes because it really helps the podcast grow so we can impact even more men in the world who need this. Guys, this is all about living with purpose, where every day you only do things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. And always remember, love the life you have while creating the life of your dreams. Go to kfmfree.com to get a surprise bonus I've made for my listeners. Again, that's kfmfree.com for something that's changed my life, and I'm offering it to you for free. Also, check out my Amazon best-selling books that I've written for you to help you crush life at kfmauthor.com. Again, that's kfmauthor.com to see all the books I've created to help you break through in life. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, founder of knowledgeformen.com, and I'll see you in the next episode.